Sit with me for a while, and I want to share with you 5 insights from Carl Jung that every man should know before he tries to change his life. These are not motivational slogans or quick techniques. They are deep psychological truths about how the human soul actually develops. You've probably felt pieces of them already. That sense that part of you is missing, or that you're living half a life because something in you is unclaimed, unseen, or unintegrated. Jung's work isn't about becoming good, it's about becoming whole. Today, we'll talk about 5 insights that define that journey. The shadow, what you refuse to see will run your life. The persona, the mask that wins approval but costs authenticity. The anima, your forgotten feeling life, the bridge to depth. The archetypes, the patterns of strength that structure the masculine psyche. Individuation, the long road of becoming who you truly are. This is not theory. These are the coordinates of real transformation. 1. The shadow, what you refuse to see, will run your life. Jung's first great insight is that everything you reject in yourself doesn't disappear. It becomes the shadow. The shadow is not evil. It's simply the part of you that was never given permission to exist. Every time you said, "That's not me," the shadow took note. Every unspoken envy, every hidden desire, every unacknowledged fear, they all went somewhere. They became the unseen half of your psyche, waiting to be faced. Most men live their lives at war with their own shadow. They chase success, but sabotage themselves. They preach virtue, but find themselves lying or betraying in secret. They want peace, but they start fights. They don't understand that what they repress will always return, disguised as fate. You can recognize your shadow in what triggers you. When another man's confidence irritates you, when someone's vulnerability makes you uncomfortable, when you despise arrogance or clinginess or weakness, those are mirrors, not monsters. What we hate in others reveals what we haven't made peace with in ourselves. The shadow's function isn't to shame you, it's to complete you. The energy you call bad is often just raw power in exile, strength without guidance, feeling without language, truth without permission. Integration begins when you stop trying to destroy that part and start listening to it. The man who owns his shadow becomes dangerous in the best sense of the word, not destructive but undeniable. His power is no longer hidden behind denial or performance. It moves cleanly, honestly, like a current that's finally been given a riverbed. 2. The persona, the mask that wins approval, but costs authenticity. Jung's second insight is that every man builds a mask, what he called the persona. It's the version of you designed to fit the world. The man who learned to smile through pain, to achieve instead of feel, to perform strength instead of embody it. That's the persona at work. The persona isn't false, it's incomplete. It's the social armor that once kept you safe. As a child, you needed approval to survive. You learned quickly what earned love and what provoked withdrawal. So you adapted. You became the good son, the clever student, the reliable worker, the agreeable friend, and it worked for a while. But adulthood asks for something the persona can't give: depth, intimacy, meaning. The mask begins to crack under pressure. You can feel this when you're praised yet empty, successful yet restless, respected yet disconnected from your own life. The persona helped you survive, but it cannot help you live. This is the midlife turning point Jung spoke about. The moment a man realizes that his outer success doesn't match his inner truth, he may panic, change careers, leave relationships, chase novelty. But the real task isn't to reinvent the persona, it's to outgrow it. When you begin to drop the mask, you feel naked, uncertain, exposed. That's normal. It means you're meeting yourself for the first time without disguise. Don't rush to fill that gap. The space beneath the persona is where authenticity grows. Every man must eventually choose between two kinds of pain, the pain of continuing the performance or the pain of becoming real. Only one leads to freedom. 3. The anima, your forgotten feeling life. The third insight is one most men resist. Jung called it the anima. The anima is the inner feminine, not softness or weakness, but the principle of feeling, imagination, and intuition that lives within every man. When you cut yourself off from it, you lose access to your emotional intelligence, your creative depth, your ability to love and be loved. Many men are haunted by the anima without knowing it. She appears in dreams as the mysterious woman you can't reach, or as the idealized partner you're always chasing, or as the critic that undermines you from within. Jung saw her as a bridge between the conscious and unconscious, the part of you that connects reason to soul. When the anima is rejected, men either become emotionally numb or consumed by emotional chaos. They fear feelings and then are secretly ruled by them. They confuse control with strength, and they mistake withdrawal for peace. To reclaim the anima doesn't mean becoming less masculine. It means becoming more human. It means allowing empathy without losing edge and depth without drowning. The man who has integrated his anima can sit in silence and feel everything without fleeing. He can listen without fixing, act without grandstanding, and love without losing himself. The anima teaches receptivity, the art of listening inwardly, and for a man who's lived his whole life by control, that is perhaps the bravest act imaginable. 4. The archetypes, the deep patterns of the masculine psyche. The fourth insight is about the deep architecture of the psyche, what Jung called the archetypes. They're not roles or stereotypes, but universal blueprints of human behavior that live in every man. You can feel them inside you. The warrior who fights for what matters, the lover who longs for connection and beauty, the magician who seeks understanding and transformation, and the king who brings order, blessing, and responsibility. When these archetypes are unconscious, they rule you. The warrior becomes aggressive, the lover becomes addicted, the magician becomes manipulative, and the king becomes tyrannical or impotent. But when they're integrated, they balance one another. The warrior acts with purpose, guided by the magician's wisdom. The lover humanizes the king's authority. The magician gives strategy to the warrior's courage. You don't have to become these archetypes. They already live in you. Your task is to mature them, to let them converse instead of compete. Jung saw the man who learns to balance his inner court as psychologically sovereign, no longer ruled by moods or personas, but guided by principle. When you integrate these energies, you stop swinging between extremes, dominance and passivity, logic and chaos, passion and detachment. You become stable, like a mountain that knows both its roots and its summit. Archetypal balance is what makes a man trustworthy, because he's no longer acting out of reaction, he's acting out of integration. 5. Individuation, the long road home. All of Jung's insights lead to one central task, what he called individuation. It means becoming who you truly are, not who you were told to be, not who you pretend to be, but who your soul has been trying to become since you were born. Individuation is not self-improvement. It's not about polishing the mask or optimizing your habits. It's about reconciling opposites, strength and tenderness, light and dark, power and humility. It's about realizing that wholeness is more sacred than perfection. This process usually begins with crisis. Something cracks, a loss, a betrayal, an exhaustion that no success can fix. The old identity breaks down, and you're left standing in the ruins, wondering who you are without your armor. That's when individuation begins, when the outer world no longer defines your worth, and the inner world starts to call your name. The path is not glamorous, it's quiet, slow, and often lonely. You'll face all your old ghosts, the unhealed boy, the rejected emotions, the dreams you abandoned. But if you stay with it, something extraordinary happens. You begin to feel solid from the inside out. Your yes becomes clean. Your number becomes clear. You stop performing and start living. The man who walks the path of individuation is not flawless. He's integrated. His power comes not from what he controls, but from what he accepts. How these 5 insights appear in daily life. All of this might sound lofty, but you meet these truths every day. You meet the shadow when you lie to stay liked. You meet the persona when you nod instead of speaking truth. You meet the anima when you suppress tears that want to teach you. You meet the archetypes when you act without courage, or when you wield power without compassion. And you meet individuation every time you realize that your old strategies don't work anymore. Real growth is ordinary. It's the moment you pause before reacting. It's the quiet realization that your anger is protecting something meaningful. It's the first honest conversation you have with yourself after years of avoidance. That's where Jung's work lives, not in theory, but in the smallest decisions that return you to integrity. Consequences of avoidance versus integration. Avoidance leads to fragmentation. You become scattered, living as fragments of yourself, strong at work but lost at home, confident in logic but terrified of emotion. Integration leads to coherence. It doesn't erase contradiction, it organizes it. You start to feel one life instead of many selves. Avoidance breeds exhaustion because you're always managing impressions instead of living truth. Integration brings peace, not comfort, but alignment, and alignment is the deepest form of rest there is. Archetypal framing, the king within. When a man begins to live by these 5 insights, he starts to awaken his inner king, not the ruler of others, but the ruler of himself. The king doesn't repress the shadow, he listens to it. He doesn't hide behind the persona, he uses it wisely. He honors the anima as his connection to soul, commands the warrior and magician with discipline, and blesses the lover with permission to feel. The king doesn't chase dominance, he embodies responsibility. He doesn't need to prove his authority, his presence is enough. Jung said that when a man finds his inner center, he stops needing to perform masculinity because he has become it. True kingship is not loud. It's a quiet gravity, the sense that a man has nothing to prove because he has finally integrated everything he once denied. Responsibility and witness. No man can walk this path entirely alone. You face the shadow alone, yes, but you live its integration among others. You need mirrors, people who can see you without illusion, who won't flinch when you falter, who will remind you that progress is not perfection. Responsibility is not punishment, it's privilege. It means you are no longer blaming fate, your parents, or the world. You are owning your life, its history, its pain, its potential. You become the custodian of your own transformation. And as you do, something shifts quietly inside. Fear turns to focus, restlessness turns to direction, and life begins to feel guided again, not by external forces, but by an inner authority that doesn't shout because it no longer needs to. The 5 insights you've just heard are not steps, they're mirrors. Each one invites you to meet yourself at a deeper level. The shadow asks for honesty, the persona for humility, the anima for feeling, the archetypes for balance, and individuation for endurance. Together they form a map, one that doesn't lead you to perfection, but to presence. You don't have to master them all at once. You only have to begin. Every act of awareness, every honest admission, every moment you choose truth over comfort, that's individuation in motion. You will never be finished, but you can be faithful. Be that man, not perfectly, reliably begin.